KSOL Black Talk Radio, the new black media. Today's video is about white fragility, in particular the subject of white women's tears. The term white tears refers to all the ways, both literally and metaphorically, that white fragility manifests itself through white people's laments over how hard racism is on them. Here, I want to address one manifestation of white tears, those shed by white women in cross-racial settings. White women's tears in cross-racial interactions are problematic for several reasons connected to how they impact others. For example, there's a long historical backdrop of black men being tortured and murdered because of white women's distress, and white women bring these histories with them. Their tears trigger the terrorism of this history, particularly for African Americans. A cogent and devastating example is Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy who reportedly flirted with a white woman, Carolyn Bryant, in Mississippi in 1955. Roy and his half-brother, J.W. Millam, lynched Till, abducting him from his great-uncle's home. They beat him to death, mutilated his body, and sank him in the Tallahatchie River. An all-white jury acquitted the men, who later admitted to the murder. On her deathbed in 2017, Carolyn Bryant recanted this story and admitted that she had lied. So family, before I continue, let me just stress on the fact that white supremacy, in particular racism, in and of itself is bankrupting America. It has destroyed America's values and it is destroying our civilization, what's left of it. Let it be known that white supremacy is the economic engine that is depleting all of our resources in the name of the greatest lie known to man. But I digress. We're going to stay on point here. When a white woman cries, a black man gets hurt. And we can further that quote by saying, when a white woman cries, a black man dies. Not knowing or being sensitive to this history is another example of white centrality, individualism, and lack of racial humility. Well-meaning white women crying in cross-racial interactions is one of the more pernicious enactments of white fragility. The reasons they cry in these interactions vary. In short, white women's tears have a powerful impact in this type of setting, effectively reinscribing rather than ameliorating racism. Their emotions are also political because they are often externalized. Their emotions drive behaviors that impact other people. Whether intended or not, when a white woman cries over some aspect of racism, all the attention goes to her, demanding time, energy, and attention from everyone in the room when they should be focused on ameliorating racism. While she, the white woman, is given attention, black people are yet again abandoned and or blamed. As Stacy Patton, an assistant professor of multimedia journalism, states in her critique of white women's tears, quote, "Then comes the waiting for us to comfort and reassure them they're not bad people," unquote. Well, anti-racist strategist Reagan Price paraphrases an analogy based on the work of critical race scholar Kimberly Crenshaw. Price says, quote, "Imagine first responders at the scene of an accident rushing to comfort the person whose car struck the pedestrian while the pedestrian lies bleeding on the street, unquote. In a common but particularly subversive move, racism becomes about white distress, white suffering, and white victimization. White men, of course, are also racially fragile, but I have not seen their fragility manifest itself in cross-racial discussions as actual crying. Their fragility most commonly shows up as varying forms of dominance and intimidation, including control of the conversation by speaking first, last, and most often. Simplistic and presumptuous proclamations of, quote, the answer to racism, and, quote, people just need to, ... You know, they're one simple answers to a complex situation. Playing the outraged victim of, quote, reverse racism. And then also accusations that the legendary, quote, race card is being played, even though they created the deck of cards. Also, silence and withdrawal. You'll see hostile body language and channel switching, which they'll say things like, well, the true oppression is class. You know, they switch the conversation and deflect elsewhere. All these moves push race off the table and help white men retain control of the discussion and end the challenge to their positions and reassert their dominance. White fragility. For black people, our tears demonstrate our racial insulation and privilege. This instructor asked a black woman her opinion, and this was her response. Quote, it's infuriating because of its audacity of disrespect to our experience. You are crying because you are comfortable with your feelings when we are barely allowed to have any. You are ashamed of some such thing and cry, but we are not allowed to have any feelings because then we are being difficult. We are supposed to remain stoic and strong because otherwise we become the angry and scary black person. We are only allowed to have feelings for the sake of your entertainment, as in the presentation of our funerals. And even then, there are expectations of what is allowed for us to express. We're abused daily, beaten, raped, and killed, but you are sad, and that's what's important. That's why it's so hard to take seeing white women shed tears. And family, that's exactly what leads us to this question, or this statement, however you so choose to look at it. But nonetheless, just for you all subscribers who watch my videos, just know that the source of the information I just provided came from the book called White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism, written by Robin DiAngelo, and the foreword by Michael Eric Dyson. Family, this book shedded a lot of very insightful information. It's written by a white woman, so any of the things that you just heard, if you feel that it is on the tinge of a European talking point, know that it is. But this woman did her very best at shedding light and information on white fragility in regards to the white women's tears and exactly what they mean. I challenge anyone to come up with their own analogy. Again, I got the source out of this book. I would highly recommend it. It was very, very insightful. And to boot, there are other videos coming that's going to shed other light on some other topics that she discusses in this book. Very good book. Anyway, thanks for watching Caswell Black Talk Radio, the new black media. I'm out.